Oh, can't seem to capture the color of the table, which is more of a green. That's interesting, huh? Not with the white balance, at least. Um, that's about as close as I can get. I can't base it off of this. This is not coming out properly. What's up, everybody? 14 out of 14. We're live. I'm just sitting here working. Hey, Docky Hollandaise, my dingy dingies. Debbie Ford, hello. What's up? How's it going? Debbie Ford's here, everybody. Debbie Ford. We're just working on a couple things here. Working on a couple color issues here. But, okay. Nice and radiant tonight. Radiant color. Hello, everybody. So, you guys heard of NPR? I guess it's NPR stands for National Press Radio. Or so, NPR. So they've got this article. It says pro-Trump counties continue to suffer far higher COVID death tolls. You know what's funny? I'll never forget, man. It just kind of sticks out in my mind. When COVID first hit, I was making a big deal about it on this show. I was kind of like, Chicken Little in it, you know. And I always like to err on the side of caution, especially when it's stuff that I don't know a lot about, you know. Give me a second here. Hey, brother. I was sitting here doing my show. What are you doing? What? Every single... Maybe under my deck? All right. Okay. Don't worry about it. Nothing you can do. No. 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 Really? How? I mean, is it all mangled up or? Huh. Oh. Huh. What color feathers? Yeah. Alright. What's that? Dude, that's a fucking bear, bro. That's a bear. It's a bear. Yep, that's a bear. Fucking patient motherfucker. Scare them all. He's a fucking bear, dude. They don't have a problem. They got claw. They got big sharp claws, bro. Whap. He fucking had a heyday in that motherfucker. Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was a fucking bear. Oh yeah, if there's a fucking dude, he took one of them fuckers and just left the spine. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, fucking I got a picture. Michael sent me a picture. It was right across the street. The bear's there. Yeah, he's there. You're fucking shit up. See, I'm not there. I'm not there at Rogan to scare that motherfucker off now, bro. So. Mark's like, you got to come back and do that. That's funny. Let me go back to my show. Thanks for telling me, man. Okay, bye. So, dude, I've had those fish for years, 5, 6 years. Collected them with my ex-girlfriend. You know, they meant a lot. But a bear went in there and ate every single fucking fish. All of my fish, man. I had an attachment to those motherfuckers, dude. It sucks. There's my pets. I took care of them every day, man. I fed those fish every fucking day. Fucking bear, dude. Nothing you can do about a bear eating your fucking fawn fish, bro. If you ain't there to fucking shoot that motherfucker. Give me a goddamn AR-15. I'll show you what an AR-15's for, motherfucker. Oh, fuck. Everything's very good. Good, Amadeus. That sounds good, man. I'll smoke to that, brother. That's good, man. That's good news. Mother. My friend Mark just called. He's at the house. A bear ate all of my fish.
Oh, no.
All of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we ended up not having fish anymore.
That's why not what?
That's why we ended up not having fish.
Oh, that's why you ended up not having fish, right? Right,
It
well.
wasn't the bears, it was the birds.
Yeah, well, you know what he said? There was a bird there, too. The bear came in there and killed them all. And a bird, he's like, there were bird feathers, too. And I'm like, yeah, so the bear came in, the bird went and finished the job. And it was probably, you know, we've had an owl pulling fish out of there before. They swoop right in there and grab them, and yeah. Have you heard from Mitchell? No, but I'm sure Mitchell's doing just fine, bro. He's really good friends with Jim. My neighbor just had a stroke a couple of days ago, and I'll bet you he's probably helping out over there and stuff. Anyway, so this says, you guys, you know, pro-Trump counties continue to suffer far higher COVID death tolls. This is from an unbiased source, NPR.
Orange? Are you nuts?
Death rates from COVID-19 in Trump voting counties remain far above heavily Biden counties since the beginning of 2021. The overall average runs a little bit lower than the median. Do you guys see that? The overall average? You guys see that? You guys see the difference there? Vaccines restricted or unavailable. Early in the pandemic, deaths were heavily focused in urban areas, which tend to heavily favor Biden. You guys remember that? That was the thing. Remember this? I remember it. I was all crazy about it, and the Republicans were saying, "Look, all the Democratic places have more deaths than the Republicans. And I was like, yeah, because that's where the airports are. I was like, that's where the viruses come in from. At work, 2 servers watching. Okay, well, I better do some bond hits for y'all. Anyway, so you can see here early on in the pandemic, so where these airports were, these counties, had more. And I said, you guys watch. As it progresses, Republican counties are going to surpass Democratic ones massively because people weren't getting vaccine, people weren't wearing masks. They were making a big deal about they didn't want a social distance, they didn't want to lock down, they were bitching about mandates, and I said, watch what happens. And sure enough, man, by January of 2021, it made the flip right here. January 2021, and ever since, never looked back. Republicans took the lead in deaths, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Crazy, huh? Just that graphic right there should be shared around the internet. I wonder if that's a retrievable image there. No. It's not. It doesn't say save. Yeah. So I could take a screenshot of it. And then I'll just pop it onto Irfan View. And then I'll just do a cut. Okay, this fucking stupid ass goddamn monitor. Like this. And then we'll just crop that. And then we'll just save as COVID IDEAT. COVID deaths. Save. Okay, we got it now. And now we'll just pop that up on Twitter. Just that image. Told you so. I don't hate to tell you I told you so. I don't hate to tell you. I like to tell you I told you so. If you'd listen to me, I wouldn't have to tell you that. People would listen, You guys trying to smoke? I smoke a bong, I smoke with you. I smoke a bong, I smoke with you. Ask Trump how many abortions he's paid for. Huh. That's funny. I wonder how many abortions Donald Trump has paid for. I wonder how many abortions all the Republicans have paid for. All the Senate Republicans. So you guys down to smoke a bong rip? What do you think about that? I don't know what Jimmy Dore is about. Cops were scared to rush the shooter. Huh.
Going on. The first
11,800 people watching Jimmy Dore.
The nearly hour-long period in which they weren't going in and stopping the shooter. I heard
11. He's almost got 12,000 viewers, guys, live on a podcast.
for
Yes.
1 hour, and it took
For
them
an hour
to get a key for
to
the
get a
room.
master
That's what
key.
They initially said.
Well, watch this. Here we go. There's
Watch
more
this bong
to
rip.
guy.
So look, we appreciate the questions.
What were the officers doing between 11:44 and 12:44?
I got you.
The suspect is barricaded behind that. You guys have said that he was barricaded. Can you explain to us how he was barricaded and why you guys cannot breach that door?
So I have taken all your questions into consideration. We will be doing updates. We will be doing
No,
answer
you should
those
be able
questions.
to answer that question now, sir.
What is your name?
Shimon Prokopetsky.
Shimon. I hear you.
Because we've been given a lot of bad information, so why don't you clear all of this up now and explain to us how it is that your officers who were in there for an hour, yes.
Why did you need his name so you could harass him?
Yet no one was able to get inside
You
that.
freaking pig.
Shimon, we will circle back with you. We want to answer all your
Oh,
questions.
we'll circle back.
We
You
wanna
learned
give
from the
you
Biden administration. We're going to circle back
So,
around.
He's asked, what were the cops doing for an hour between 11:44 and 12:44? So that's what a lot of the cops are watching The View.
Top of the hour to all of you.
Also, my deputy Chet, he had to pick up some dry cleaning. That's what was going on. He's got to circle back. Believe me, Shimon, we want to answer all your questions. We need more resources. We need PR people, lawyers, more cowboy hats for sure, computer animators. We're a small town. Here we go.
our job. So give us time. I'm taking all your questions. I'm taking them back. I'll talk to the team. And
How the door was barricaded.
look, thank you for being here. We'll talk soon.
So he gave no answers to anybody about anything. But I will show you how they blame teachers for this. So I just to get you up to date, so that guy confirmed that the shooter crashed his truck in a ditch near the school at 11:28 a.m. He then climbed out of the passenger side with a long-arm rifle and a backpack of ammunition. He fired at two people at the funeral home across the street from the school who were not injured. They called 911 at 11:32 a.m. about an armed man who had crashed his truck and was running towards the school. That's at 11:32 a.m. At 11:40, approximately 8 to 10 minutes later, surveillance video captured Ramos entering the school, the shooter entering the school unobstructed via a back door that was left unlocked, that cop said. Ramos walked down two hallways and barricaded himself in a fourth grade classroom. 4 minutes later, the first police officers arrived on the scene, but they were fired upon by Ramos. They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire. They call for additional resources. Everybody that's in the area, he said. We need specialty equipment. We need body armor. We need precise riflemen. Negotiators. You heard him say that. He insisted the officers were trying to evacuate students and teachers at the same time. Then a full hour later, Border Patrol tactical teams arrived. Then they made entry and they killed Ramos. Escalon could not explain what happened in the 10 minutes between the 9/11 call and Ramos entering the school. What did happen? Where were the cops? Why couldn't the cops get there within 10 minutes? There's a 9/11 call. You're a small town. It takes longer than 10 minutes to drive to the school? They could have got there before the guy got in the school.
And you don't alert the school.
And you don't alert the school to close the doors?
What?
So he also repeatedly denied to explain why or how it took an hour for specialist teams to arrive and breach the classroom. You gotta understand, it's a small town, he said. What? He added that the majority of gunfire was in Ramos's initial moments
I'm just kinda wondering-
inside the school.
Who was that first initial 9/11 call from? Does anybody know?
There were kids inside the school while there were cops outside with guns, tasing and cuffing parents. There were little kids calling 911 still inside the school because they were alive. And the cops wouldn't go in. So while the cops were outside doing that to those people, parents we just showed you, there were still kids inside being shot and kids still calling 911 on their cell phones inside before they got shot. Yeah. Watch this. You want to see this? He's going to ask them, what were they doing? What were the cops doing for that whole hour? Watch this.
You say there were 19 officers gathered in the hallway or somewhere. What efforts
So now they're saying, no, we weren't in the school. There were 19 officers in the school. And now he's going to ask them, well, what were they doing?
were made to try and break through that door? You say it was locked. What efforts were the officers making to try and break through either that door or another door to get inside that classroom?
Or a window?
None. They were making no attempt to try to save those kids. And they act like that's an acceptable answer.
I know, that's what's crazy
Hey,
about
look,
it.
just because we all wear cowboy hats doesn't mean we aren't huge pussies.
I love that Jimmy's doing that.
Because we are.
Because I
We're
won't
all
even talk.
cowards.
I won't even do this.
Those hats just stand
He's
there
totally
Just
gone
idiots.
where I won't even go.
Fucking morons.
Let's go,
You're at a
Jimmy.
cowboy hat convention. They're all playing dress up.
He's
That's
speaking for
fucking
me
grown-ups
right
playing
now.
dress up. And they give
Thank you,
them guns
Jimmy.
too.
Thank
They'll
you, Jimmy.
never use them when they're supposed to. They should have told him there was an unarmed black guy inside with a cell phone. They would have ran in there and shot his head off.
Oh, bam! Did you hear that shit?
Yeah, what did they?
Resources.
Hey, there's a bunch. There's some black guys in there with cell phones. They're waving them around. Why don't you draw an arm? Go shoot them.
I'm
What?
still tripping over the fact that there was
Mom.
minutes after the cops were called at the
Jimmy Dore just said they should have told those cops in Texas that there were black guys inside that school shooting it up. They would have gone right in there and killed them instantly.
What? What were the cops doing? Where were they?
There's no way. I grew up in a very small town. Cops everywhere. It's a very safe town.
Jimmy's
If there was
killing
a
it.
call, like something like that was happening, they would have.
Yo, son, who's that, Enoch?
Like 2-3 minutes.
What's up, Enoch? Yo, son. I think the teacher whom left the door
This was a
open.
few years ago. I remember telling you, the parents are told in the event that
Do you think teachers that are gun owners should be allowed to carry guns in school? Of course, of course.
So the recommendation was to get a gun. They told the teachers there, we recommend you get a gun.
Because Steve's so
because
busy, I
cops
don't
will
see
be-"
him.
So this is a big city with not enough cops. Not a tiny town with, like, I assume nothing else going on. It's
No,
like
yeah.
the biggest thing that's ever happened.
Right. So what? Yeah, exactly. What were the cops doing instead of going to that school? And they can't answer that question. And the other question is, why didn't you guys try to break into the room where the guy was shooting the kids as the kids were still alive and calling 911? Well, here it is again. I'll play it again.
You say there were 19 officers gathered in the hallway or somewhere. What efforts were made to try and break through that door? You say it was locked. What efforts were the officers making to try and break through either that door or another door
None.
to get
None.
inside that classroom?
None at that time.
No.
The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
You have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive. In that
How many shots were fired in there? Do you guys know? You guys don't know anything about this, do you? It's a good thing we're watching this.
We're well aware of that.
Right, but why was
Enoch, how many shots were fired inside
not
there?
to go in and rescue the
Your little
children?
Beezle. Your little
This guy sounds like
Beezle.
Amber Heard on the fucking
Oh,
stag.
my
It's
Beezle
unbelievable.
might be in bed.
We're well aware of that. You
My
mean you're well
Beezle's
aware
on
that there were little
Broadway.
kids calling you
Beezle
to
up.
save them, and you didn't.
Beezle, Beezle.
At that time.
Beezle, Beezle. My
At that time,
Beezle's
we were
on
not saving
Broadway.
them. No.
Beezle up.
Saying that.
Nobody even spins some Mix-a-Lot anymore, pal.
They had
Unreal.
19 cops in the hallway, one shooter, 19 cops in
Cop.
the hallway. What?
Those are called 19 huge pussies.
Also, you can hear if it's transition from shooting to merely
Yes.
barricaded subject, because there won't be any sound of shooting coming out of it.
But the kids were still calling 911, so it wasn't a barricaded subject. So you were wrong. Hey, there's more.
The on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was in fact still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject.
Obviously.
Sir, if I can follow up. Sir,
Listen to the press going
What?
crazy.
So that's that. So we just didn't go in.
So
So
they thought it was.
Did you hear the press going crazy?
Barricaded himself in.
no, he thought that they killed.
You
the
love
kids
Jimmy?
with
I love
what he
Jimmy
said.
too, bro. I don't always agree with everything he says.
He's saying that there were no more kids at
But
risk
that doesn't
anymore.
make
We
me
thought
not
that
love him.
so he didn't say that, but that's
Yeah.
what he's implying, that they were all dead. And
That's
he
what I
was
wish
just
my audience
barricading
members would
himself
remember
in
about
that
this
room
show.
with the dead kids. They were already dead. They weren't. They weren't already dead. They were calling 911.
Yeah. And he admitted to that. He said they were still calling 911.
Can you believe these people? These are grown-ups. On camera. These are the answers they're giving to other grown-ups. It's amazing. It's just mind-boggling.
They should have to turn in their hats. I mean, at the very least, what should happen is no more cowboy hat.
Here, there's more to this. Watch this.
Suspected of where we knew the shooter entered, Ross, was propped open by a teacher.
So now they're gonna throw the teachers under the bus.
I don't understand what they're saying the teacher did. Had the door.
They're saying the teacher propped open the door. That's how he got into the building. The teacher had propped open the door. Wow, well, let's listen. Wow.
Suspected of where we knew the shooter entered, Ross, was propped open by a teacher. 11:28. The suspect vehicle crashes into the ditch, as previously described. The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open.
His grandma lived. Yeah, she got shot in the face.
He's blaming the teacher.
How many shots were fired in there?
He's blaming the teacher.
Dude, a teacher left a door
That's what he's
open.
doing. He's got that timeline down.
That's how the killer got in there?
But how about he goes, the 19 cops stood out there with their dick in their hands while children were being slaughtered inside. They went back to the door that was propped open as kids were being slaughtered. They kept walking around for an hour with their dicks in their hands while kids were being slaughtered.
How long were the shots being fired?
But we're going to put most of this on the teacher.
So really, door safety was really the main
Door, yeah, the problem is
I mean,
door
at
safety.
what point did the
You're
last
right.
gunshot was the last
So
gunshot
here's
fired?
another guy goes
Yeah.
on with Wolf
That's my
Blitzer.
question.
Listen
Look
to
at his face.
Listen to this garbage. Listen to this, another cowboy hat jackass. What a
I hate with the cowboy hats,
such
right?
children.
Right? You know,
I almost
don't you just want to punch them all in their
Last
faces?
Halloween, I dressed up. For Halloween, I put on a big cowboy hat because I wanted to dress up
Cheers.
as an asshole. And it worked. Everybody knew.
Well, was it a mistake, you believe, Lieutenant, for the officers on the scene who were there, as you correctly point out, to wait for this second tactical team to arrive before fully pushing into that school and neutralizing the gunman?
So what we do know, Wolf, is that there was multiple officers that arrived on scene. There was 3 officers that arrived. They made entry at one of the entrances where the gunman actually made entrance to. We had another 4 officers that made entry at the other entrance of the school. So there was officers inside that school. As they were taking gunfire, they were also calling in for reinforcement, backup.
They were taking gunfire. How many of them got hit?
Snipers.
How many police got shot?
They just keep talking. They just keep talking as if they were doing
They were taking
something.
fire.
They just keep talking. So they're like.
I thought the guy was
you know
barricaded
they
in a
know they're
room. How were they
guilty
taking fire?
Because they're over-explaining things.
I'd like to hear the whole story.
You know that's they're classic liars.
It sounds like in Idiocracy, or at this time a particular individual.
yes. That's exactly what they're doing. If I just say a lot of things, it'll sound like I know what I'm talking about. And I'll use terms like perpetrator and stuff like that.
Perpetrator.
Personnel that could arrive to assist to not only
Words like perpetrator
but
confuse
also
Jimmy.
assist in evacuating students and teachers. At that time, that's when a U.S. Border Patrol tactical officer arrived.
An hour later.
Also with a Zavala County Sheriff's deputy, as well as 2 additional Uvalde Police Department officers were able to go into that classroom with a ballistic shield as cover. And of course, we know that one of those officers, an agent, actually was shot, was grazed on top of the head, but they were able to shoot and kill the suspect and preserve any other life. We know that there was other injured children inside that classroom that they were able to save as well and get them to cover. And at that point, it became a recovery process, a rescue operation, trying to rescue the injured and also any other potential children.
So he thinks he's going to overtalk Wolf Blitzer. That's what this guy's doing.
That's what he's doing.
I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to get to the other part of the story.
Right.
So Wolf isn't going to double.
Now
down.
we're getting it's
Really?
rescue mission. We're getting the kids.
Inside those classrooms.
Break in.
But don't the best practices, Lieutenant, call for officers to disable a shooter as quickly as possible, regardless of how many officers are actually on site?
Correct. The active shooter
Correct.
situation, you want to stop the killing, you want to preserve lives, but also
Well,
one thing
will
that-
we use worst
of course.
practices?
No, well, we actually use worse practices.
It's 300 miles away. Damn, bro.
Correct, he said. Wolf says, isn't the best practices you're supposed to go get that guy and stop him if he's in the act of shooting? And he goes, yeah, correct.
Affirmative.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that. We didn't. Here we go.
And it's not even that. It's like they not only did they just have like one cop on campus, they had 19 in the hallway.
That 19 in the hallway.
Number.
The American people need to understand is that officers are making entry into this building. They do not know where the gunman is. They are hearing gunshots. They are receiving gunshots. At that point, if they proceeded any further, not knowing where this suspect was at, they could have been shot. They could have been killed. And
Yeah, that's
Cops
what you're
get shot all the
supposed to
time.
do, fuckface.
Cops get
You're
shot all the
supposed to
time. It's
risk
your
being
job.
shot
Exactly.
to save kids.
Exactly. What he's saying.
That's what you're supposed to do. I don't know if you know that, but you're supposed to risk your life. That's why you have to. That's why you get to carry a gun. That's why you get to brutalize anybody at your whim and never have to pay a price for it.
Not so
Because
much,
You
but
are
yes.
supposed to be risking your life.
Right.
And what he's saying is, they would have been risking their life.
Blaming the teachers.
Yes,
You're blaming that teacher.
That's what you're supposed
Leaving
to
a
do.
door open.
You ever been
That's
shot?
part of the job
Wolf,
description.
it hurts.
Supposedly. It used to be at least.
They would have been risking their life. That's what they're supposed to be doing. He says it with a straight face. And that reminds me of when Barack Obama said, a police officer's number one job is to make sure he gets home safe at night. That is not his job. His job is to make sure I get home safe at night. His job is to make sure those kids get home safe at night. That's not his job. His number one job is not his own safety. His number one job is the public safety.
It's the front of the firemen were like, well, we had to wait because the fire, there was a fire in the building,
Yeah.
so we couldn't go in.
Well, the firemen show up, but it was a little too risky. We had to wait for the fire to burn down, or else we would have been risking our life. What? Yeah, that's why you're firemen. You run into a building. That's what firemen do. That's not what cops do. You see time and time and time again, that's not what cops do. Cops are trained to save themselves. They're not trained to save you. We had that proven to us by a sergeant from the Baltimore Police Department who has got a master's degree, and he studied this as an academic. They're not trained to save you. They're trained to save themselves. Go ahead, Jackson. Oh,
Couldn't they have a guy with a megaphone though? Do they have any sound effects specialist officers who could have laid down covering fire noises?
Let's listen to the rest of this.
Cover fire
That
noises.
gunman would have the opportunity to kill other people inside that school. So they were able to contain that gunman inside that classroom so that he was not able to go to any other portions of the school to commit any other killings.
Oh, wait, let
So
me.
now he said,
Yeah,
no, they
and,
were
and,
contained.
and he didn't go to McDonald's and go kill 20 more people, and we were able to stop him from going to a mall then and killing 100 people there, and we were able to stop him from going to a police station and killing all the cops.
This guy's with a straight face.
He's like moving the
You know what
goalposts.
asswipes these people are.
It's like he wasn't able to
They're
get to
all
any
playing
other
dress
parts. We stopped him from going to other parts of the school.
When the
Okay.
guys, when they're actually faced with a situation where they
Look at that guy's
all
like-
these badass.
That police
gun
officer's
guys,
like-
I love my gun. I want to cook bacon on the barrel of my rifle. All these, and then when an opportunity actually shows up to use their guns, they're all a bunch of fucking cowards. They're all playing dress up.
With the straight face,
With
he
the-
just said, No, we had to contain him in there because if we opened the door, he could have potentially killed all 19 cops.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
went on to go and kill more kids.
Yeah. Yeah, when he killed every cop there, and then he would have killed more kids. That's what he's trying to say with a straight face. And even Wolf Blitzer isn't buying it.
It's like every single action they took, or lack thereof, and every single comment they've made is the exact thing that you'd expect if you want this to be like the most fishy, like
Right.
act up story imaginable.
Yes. So, just to drive this point home, since Columbine in 1999, many police departments have trained officers to go after an attacker as soon as possible to minimize the number of teachers.
Remember that guy came in and
shot.
said, "Police aren't trained for that."
The guidance often emphasized waiting for specially trained officers, such as a SWAT team.
Police aren't
But the
trained.
Uvalde Police Department's policy on responding to an active shooter is not publicly available. But a sample policy manual offered to local departments by the Texas Police
Enter the
Chiefs
structure.
Association
Look at that.
states, quote, the first 2 to 5 responding officers should form a single team and enter the structure.
2 to
The
5.
sample manual contains best practices and has been used by more than 100 agencies, according to the association. So they were supposed to go in immediately and try to disarm that shooter, and they did not. They did nothing. They let that guy kill kids
How's he doing
as
on
they
viewers?
laid there on the floor, calling
I'm
9/11.
riveted. 14,200
In any
viewers.
active shooter situation, the protocol is to address the threat. You go at the threat. You go at where the gunfire is at because you're trying to stop the threat. Texas Department of Public Safety spokesman Lieutenant Chris Alvarez said in an interview on Thursday. Catherine Schweit, a retired senior FBI official who started the Bureau's active shooter program, said officers were taught to immediately neutralize a shooter. Under all circumstances, that is their first priority, said Schweit, who cautioned that it was still early and that all the facts were not known yet about the response to the Uvalde shooting. Even if somebody locks themselves behind a door, we want to go in and get that guy, she said. And even if a shooter is no longer firing, she said, anybody with a gun who's killed people is an active threat until they're neutralized. So here's the timeline.
14,300 viewers.
Watch this. Student calls 911 at 12:03. Whispers. She's in room 112. 12:10. She says multiple people are dead. 7 minutes later. So now 10 minutes after the first call, she's calling again. 12:16. She says 8 or 9 students are still alive. The cops are there. 12:19. Student calls from room 111. 12:21. 3 shots heard on the call. The cops are out there doing nothing as children are being shot in a classroom calling 911. 12:36, another call. 36 minutes, 33 minutes late, over a half hour.
This tweet's
Cops
all
in the
over
hallway
Twitter today.
doing nothing.
It shows the
But
call
sitting
logs.
there listening,
Nine-
the cops can hear
9 calls.
that guy shooting children, and they won't go in because they're fucking cowards. 12:43, ask for police. 12:47, almost an hour later, they're still calling, asking for the police. "19 police officers stood outside a locked elementary school classroom door for 40 minutes while a gunman slaughtered students inside who were desperately calling 911. Unreal, this official just said that a decision was made to not break into the classroom because the officers on site believed there was no longer an active shooting situation, even though children were calling 911 at the time, pleading for officers to come in and save them. My God.
This is a pretty intense gun commercial they helped make. Like,
Yeah.
The cops.
And here we go. Here's Ted
They're talking
Cruz.
about it on the news
I want
right
to thank
now.
the heroic law enforcement and first responders for acting so swiftly.
Oh, Ted Cruz said that?
As an ex-prosecutor from Uvalde, I can say, based on my past interactions with Uvalde PD, you will never know the truth about what went down in that school until every inch of videotape is released to the press.
Huh. Based on her interactions with
So
them.
they're corrupt, like every police department.
Wow.
Michael Tracy says, just trying to think of what the most plausible explanation would be. If the explanation really is a large number of heavily armed cops decided to just passively let the mass murder of kids continue without intervening, then the abolish the police people were right all along, I guess.
Kind of an ad for that too.
Yeah.
It's a real do-it-yourself for me out advertisement.
So, this, in red or orange, the U.S. is only a handful of places that doesn't. So the rest of the world requires you to have a license, except for this right here, United States. That's it. Every other country in the world makes you have a license. What's this? The yellow is they won't let you have a gun. I think that's China and parts of Asia. Yeah, they won't let you have a gun. I don't even know what country is this?
Yeah, exactly, Ryan. Parents
What
would have
country
used
is
the
that?
police officers'
Is that
guns
Ethiopia? What country is
and
that?
gone in there themselves. I
don't
know, right?
So there you go.
They probably would have killed that guy.
Let's stop letting people know how much we don't know about geography. Where's Egypt? Where's Kenya? Where's Ethiopia? Where's Libya? Where's Morocco? No. They would be across. So this is on Africa. So that is Ethiopia. I got it right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which country it is, but the U.S. is still probably bombing it.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So there you go. And you know that this is going to result in more money to the cops. This is going to be more money to the cops. And there's a policing problem in America. It's, we don't take policemen out of the population at random. They attract a certain type of person. Bullies and people who were bullied. Those are the type of people who like to become cops. And now we're getting people from the military who were trained to be an occupying force. And then they become cops, which is the worst thing in the world, to have ex-military people be police. It's the worst thing you could have. They're trained not to serve those people.
He'll
They're
grab
trained to
the
see
back
those people
scratcher. He'll be
as
right
their
back.
enemy. That's wrong. And they're also trained to protect themselves first. That's why people get killed who are unarmed all the time. So there's a culture of cops. And there's two kinds of cops. Cops who succumb to that corrupt police culture or cops who quit. There's no. So every cop you meet is part of that cop culture, or else they would have quit. Okay.
You can say that about any part of government.
And we need to get rid of, and we need to start over with policing in America, and it needs to be community-based, meaning that the people tell the cops how you want to be policed, not the other way around. Right now, a mayor hires a police chief, and he tells the city how they're going to police them. It should be the exact opposite. All right, so I've done shows on this. Go look them up.
Don't go to a card.
Go look it up. Michael Wood.
Don't go
I've
to a card.
interviewed that guy. He's a scholar. He's looked into policing. He's an ex-cop himself.
Hey, lonesome
sergeant in
lady.
Baltimore. Look it up. Okay, over stuff.
Don't go to a card.
I was in a lockdown a couple times, and what's very shocking about this story
She's a school
is
teacher.
not just how tragic it is, but the idea that there was a shooting at earlier. What was it? 11:32. That in front of a funeral home.
11:28.
11:28, and they weren't there. They weren't there on it when there was an active shooter. When there was a bank robbery, the school that I taught at
They were there
20
instantly.
years ago, there's a bank robbery a couple blocks. We were all in lockdown, and we were in lockdown for hours at that point. And they were protecting the school. They were aware of the school. So I don't even understand. This is a sickening story. It's just really a heartache. White Rabbit says, #AMC Squeeze. You like my new pick? Also, VA Beach, Virginia Beach, please. Thank you, White Rabbit.
Okay.
And now, Anne-Marie Cunningham says, hit the like button. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And now, Mr. Dorr.
So here's the coward politicians who back the gun lobby and all that stuff running from questions. Hey, if you back the gun lobby, why not just stand up? Why not just answer the question? Here we go.
In the wake of this shooting, why not expand background checks, including
Couldn't get in the door.
on firearms? I mean,
That
I
was
don't know,
funny.
Why not expand background checks?
Look at that. Look at that. That's Senator Ron Johnson. There you go. Why not just expect now? Ted Cruz is fully unable to answer this.
What
guy
would a
who's
background
posed a
check
question
done on
about
that
why is
18-year-old?
America the only country with mass shootings.
You dumbass. What would your background check have done on that 18-year-old that
Why
didn't have
is
a record?
America- We're not the only country with mass shootings.
Background
said the
check.
nice guy.
Yeah,
I'll
really?
answer for Ted Cruz. We're the only rich country with mass
He had
shootings.
no history.
Just like we're the only
of
rich
mental
country
illness.
without national
Nothing.
health care. It's
Background
called
check wouldn't have done
exceptionalism.
anything. Maybe that's
Yeah,
why.
here's Ted Cruz.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
It's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
Please, we've just had tragic gun
We
violence.
can't
Now is
solve
not the
this
time to be
problem.
speaking about
There's
gun
nothing we
violence.
can
Let's wait until the
do.
next
Now,
shooting
the
to
fact
talk
that
about
this
this
never
shooting,
happens
right?
in other
Isn't that how we do it?
countries, that's got nothing to do with us now,
Yeah,
does it?
That's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats and the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people,
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
if you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really
Hey, look on the bright side. No fetuses were killed. Am I right?
think that's what many people around
Ted
the world
Cruz,
just
Republican.
they cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why
Right
is
on
this
those,
American
Lenny. Hell yeah.
exceptionalism so awful?
You know, I'm sorry you think American
What's he
exceptionalism
laughing
is
about?
awful.
I think this aspect. I
And
think
it's
this
not some
aspect.
sort of answer.
Well, I take exception to you taking exception to our exceptionalism. It's called exceptionalism, not just like all the other rich countryisms.
I need a bong.
Now, if you excuse me, I have to eat bacon cooked on a barrel of a gun.
I need to eat bacon cooked on the barrel of a
Censor,
gun.
it's not. I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem. It is just an American problem.
Because we just saw that our cops suck.
Yeah.
But you can't answer that. You can't answer that, can you, sir? You can't answer that. Why
I
is
got a
this
question
bias
for
to
Jackson
people?
Hinkle. How are you going to defend the country being a patriot if you don't have the kind of gun you need to defend it
Safest.
with?
He
Because
really said that.
your government's going to take it away from you.
It may be the freest, it may be the most
Why are
popular.
our kids signing?
There's tough guy Ted Cruz. Here we go. He's got some more to say.
Are you taking off?
Remember this? This is him with his daughter. Watch this.
Good job. Good job.
She didn't want anything to do with. Ow! 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 Get away from me! That's his daughter. She acted like she didn't even know him. Right?
Now when he blamed
That's
her
a low
for
blow.
the whole PR disaster when they left in the middle of the energy
Even for
blackout in
Ted
Texas.
Cruz.
You remember that?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
He went on a vacation.
to Cabo or something.
Yeah.
He blamed it on his daughter because his daughter apparently wanted to go and dictate the family's plans.
That's right. For spring break or something, right? Wasn't it?
Daughters.
It's like when Gavin Newsom's kids demanded to stay
daughters.
for Halloween.
Yeah. Not another fatherless Halloween. I took a plane, train, and an automobile just to get here.
Ryan says guns don't kill people.
I'll be home for Halloween. Do you remember when Ted Cruz was running against Trump and people were calling him a sea monster? Do you remember that? I felt bad for him, kind of, but now I think he might be a sea monster.
A sea
It's practically a seaweed dripping off of his forehead and Don Barrera used to say his forehead and chin touch.
And I just want to show you again. I showed you this in the other video, but I'll show you in this one too. Here's the cops blaming
What are they
teachers.
talking about? That's
Suspected
why, dude.
of what we knew
This
the
stuff is too
shooter
black, too
entered
strong.
Ramos was propped open by a teacher. 11:28. The suspect vehicle crashes into the ditch, as previously described. The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open.
Goddamn teachers, the cause of all our problems, huh, Copper? Oh,
Did the guy crash into a ditch and just randomly crash his car into a ditch? And
I don't know. You tell me how that happened. Okay, Overstein.
Vienticus Prime says 19 pregnant men in uniform. Carl
That's funny.
1212.
That was very funny.
How many cowboy hats does it take to equal one cowboy? Question. Gorovno says, could you please invite Richard Heinberg to talk about oil depletion and energy diversification rather. Plus, now that the media is clamoring for Xinjiang again, could you please invite Daniel Dumbrill on? That's
Cheers,
from
guys.
What an
Gorovno.
unfortunate name.
Thank you.
Daniel Dumbbell? That is tough.
Dumbbell.
Especially and he's an academic
Dumbrill.
with a name like Dumbbell.
Brill.
That's amazing. What is it?
Dumbrill.
Dumbbell?
Brill.
Bell.
Bill?
Bell?
Dumbbell. You got
Dumbbell.
it. Vidal Gomez says, yo, Jimmy and Stuck. Saludos from Puerto Rico. 3S the mixture mark. All right, Anne-Marie Cunningham. Hit the like button. Thank you,
Okay.
Anne-Marie. And now, Mr. Jaime La Puerta.
Look at this from Bloomberg today. The U.S. isn't alone in suffering high levels of gun violence. It's a huge issue in many places, just none that America would consider a peer. So gun deaths are high in parts of Latin America, including El Salvador, Guatemala, and Colombia. Because, we've been doing a drug war, and so now there's a bunch of drug gangs. Where gang violence and drug trafficking are rife. South Africa recorded 7,351 firearm-related killings in 2019-2020. Among rich nations, the United States really stands out. It registered 214 mass shootings.
That sucks, Docky. I'm sorry,
mass
bro.
shooting is where 4 people or more are shot, right? That's what that is. At least 4 people were shot. So we've gotten already 214 of those.
Great time to buy Bitcoin, guys. 28.7, man.
What a day.
Great time to buy
Regulations
Bitcoin,
in
man.
parts of Asia, Europe, and the Middle
28.7.
East are strongly correlated
These are
with
the
fewer
times
firearm deaths.
that
Now,
make
again, I've
millionaires.
gone back and forth on the firearm thing. I used to be for banning all of them, then I was for it. Then I saw Waco, and I was like, hey,
Harmony
maybe we
is
should have
4
guns.
cents, everybody. Harmony
'Cause that was
is
crazy.
4 cents.
And then I realized, no, the government will always have more guns. If they want to kill you, they will. And look what, and
My buy-in on Harmony
and
is
so I
4
went back
cents.
I'm back on the board of we need to get rid of
That's
guns.
my
because
average
if you
buy
look,
price. That's where it is right
like
now.
the countries that ban their
4
guns,
cents.
they just have less gun violence. It's just a fact. And I'm not a gun nut. I shot a gun once, almost shot my head off. I don't like guns. They scare me. And the stats are if you have a gun in your house, you're more likely to kill someone
The
you
best,
know.
brother. They probably
Here is the United States, Ethiopia, and what is that? Yemen? I don't know what is this. Saudi, whatever this is. This might be Saudi Arabia. These are so only 3 countries in the whole world
Right on, Doc.
let you buy a gun without getting a license. See, in the blue, that's all the countries that make you get a license.
What's the reason that they don't want there to be a license? What is the...
Because it would inhibit gun sales. What do you think? I mean, what's the bullshit reason they give?
Is it
They give
like,
Second Amendment. They go to Second Amendment, man. You give Second Amendment. So
Is that like they're
I have a
like,
right. You can't make me get a license because I have a right to it. It's in the Constitution.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Did you ever
Right.
see Red Dawn?
It's like you can't get a license for free speech. It's in the fucking Constitution. That's what they say, right?
Oh, I see.
So these are all the countries that make you get a license first. Oh, there's one country here. What's that country? Anyway, and then these countries in yellow don't let you even have one. No matter, you can't get a license or nothing. So here, we'll go down. The gun homicide rate is high in Mexico,
Check this out.
Latin America, and the Caribbean. In
If you were looking to get
2021, the
crypto right
Mexican
now and you had
government-
$5,000 to throw down on crypto, hear me out. Let's say you had $5,000 in the bank. You're like, dude, I want to buy $5,000 worth of crypto.
Have loose controls and are contributing to the legal.
You could have as much Harmony as me, Harmony One, right? If you buy some right now, you buy $5,000 worth, you'll have more Harmony than I have. That's $4,370 worth. It's 107,000 Harmony One coins at 4 cents each.
So Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, and Chile allow
Harmony One,
citizens to
ONE.
own guns, but regulate the purchase of them. And they
Hey, what's up, Treasure Coast Waters, man? What's up, buddy?
In Brazil, firearms have become easier to get and multiplied in circulation under the unabashedly pro-gun President Bolsonaro, who claims putting guns in the hands of good guys helps lower crime. Registered collectors, hunters, and recreation gun users surged 325% to over 1 million licensed. So they went from 255,000 licensed gun owners in Brazil to over 1 million. Wow.
Hey, quadruple the
China,
number.
here's their policy. The Communist Party implemented one of the strictest gun control laws in 1996, banning possession, manufacturing, trade, transport, lease of guns for anyone other than the state-approved personnel, such as law enforcement, security guards, approved athletes, and hunters. So if you're good at basketball, you get a gun.
No.
In
if
India,
you're
the world's second most populous
shooter.
nation, getting a gun license involves thorough assessment and background checks. The country of 1.4 billion people had about 3.3 million gun licenses in 2018. So that's very
Hey, Josh.
few. We know we have more guns in America than we have people.
You made a bucket
so they
of
only
cash.
have 3.3 million gun licenses. So that, they're doing pretty good. Southeast Asia has strict gun controls, though it is a hub for cross-border arms
I
smuggling.
can't
and
believe we've
trafficking.
been here for an hour.
Cambodia and Vietnam have bans on firearms, while Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Thailand
The
have
sun
restricted
came out.
gun
It's beautiful outside, isn't it?
The death penalty can be imposed for gun-related
Mom?
crimes in countries like Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Malaysia.
Sun came out.
Sweden stands out for the high level of gun homicide compared with other European countries, at about 4 deaths per million. The United States has 4 deaths per 100,000. I'm pretty sure that's the number. So, and this is considered high. Wow. Can you check that? Is it 4 deaths per 100,000 gun deaths in America? The average for Europe is roughly 1.6 deaths per million inhabitants, according to the Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention. So that's much lower.
Sun's going on.
What is it in the United States?
Sun's
What's our
hitting the side of the
death
house.
rate from
now.
guns?
It's pretty outside. Here, look.
We'll see. All right, sorry. Central and Eastern Europe have had a lower frequency of mass shootings in the U.S. Well, it's hard to have higher. There are strict gun regulations on gun ownership across the region, and getting permission usually requires jumping through layers of bureaucracy, including a psychological assessment and a training process. So the rest of the world keeps a real tight control on their guns for their citizens. We don't do that in the United States, and so we have all these mass shootings. Firearms in Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates are very strictly regulated, with behavioral and background checks leading to very few instances of gun violence. The minimum age to obtain a license is 21, and guns need to be registered. In Kuwait, even the bullets need to be licensed. Again, we're the only country. In South Africa, there are estimated 2.72 million firearms owned by private individuals in a nation of 60 million people. The country recorded 7,351 firearm-related
Cheers.
killings in 2019-20.
Cheers,
according
Treasure
to
Coast.
blah, blah, blah. So, but most of those are from gang violence. And look at this. So they banned, look at this little, so look at right here. So these are indiscriminate killings of multiple victims in a public place since 1982. So this is them. So not many in 1980, not many in 85, 99, not many 2000. All of a sudden, right here, it explodes. What happened right here? What do you think happened right here? I'll tell you what happened. They repealed the assault ban rifle weapon thing. That's what happened.
And I have the stat. It's In the United States, on a per capita basis, there were 13.6 gun deaths per 100,000 people in 2020, which is much lower than
I just say to Jimmy right now,
16.3 gun
correlation
deaths.
does not prove causation. There's plenty of other kinds of weapons out there that are semi-automatic.
Oh.
You know, I've got a 22 semi-automatic rifle. It wouldn't have fallen under that.
So 2020.
That ban, that assault rifle ban, and you can kill just as many people with that gun. Just as devastating. Handguns, same thing. It's just silly that he thinks just because they're using the best gun they can doesn't mean they're not going to use the next best gun they can.
Where 4 people are getting
You know, and
shot.
they will.
That's they're called mass shootings.
You know.
I'm curious what the rate is of other kinds of murders. Because I don't know if you watch like in the UK, like
With knives?
Like, they stopped including knives at like restaurants and like stuff like that. Like
Yeah, man, my boy's got he's got a whole collection of SKSs, dude. I can just go over there and fucking sight all of them in, fuck around with them all. They're cool. The sights on them
Oh,
are
that's right. We should cover
unbelievable.
that. There was where did that happen? There was a guy when he killed like 5 people with a bow and arrow. There's a mass bow and arrow killing. You ever thought you'd hear that?
That wouldn't be hard, especially if you had a crossbow.
Of course. All right, overstep.
Jimmy, I just wanted, people were mentioning in the chat that there had been some updates about Texas, and they said, this is a CBS News headline, delay in breaching classroom during Texas school shooting was the wrong decision, official says. And they're saying that they didn't follow protocol.
They did not follow
and
protocol.
And that also, they quote Governor Abbott, during a press conference, that he was misled when initially briefed by the police response.
Of course, they even lied to the governor.
The information that I was given turned out in part to be inaccurate, and he said, and I'm absolutely livid about it. So it was interesting that you included that one tweet about it'll take forever to get through the details about this because this police department is challenged by truth. Okay, all right. Yo, Jimmy and stuff. Okay. Hashtag AMC Squeeze. Thank you. You look highly dosed right now, Jimmy.
I wish I was.
I wish you was.
All right, come to me.
All right. Now, Mr. Doris.
So guess what? There's a food crisis happening. And so Wall Street Journal does an article about it, right?
We already covered
Here's
this
what they say about the
this
food
morning.
crisis, right? It's being caused by Ukraine. It says supplies of wheat and other foodstuffs are blocked in Ukraine's Black Sea ports. Jackson, why are they blocked in Ukraine's Black Sea port? Why are supplies of wheat and other
Because Ukraine's got the ports mined.
Why is that?
Grain and food supplies are blocked in the Black Sea ports, not because of Russia, but because Ukraine
They've got
dispersed
mines.
littered naval mines all across the
Thank
ports,
you.
the outskirts of the ports.
Thank you.
And they don't know where they are anymore because those mines are very old, and a storm came through, swept them up, and now they are scattered into Turkish coastlines,
Willy-nilly.
Ukrainian coastlines, and none of the shippers will go into the ports because of the naval mines that are unlocated and could blow up any ship at any moment.
It's so weird that the Wall Street Journal didn't include that in this article.
Yeah,
It's so weird.
The entire mainstream apparatus is vaguely blaming Russia, but General Mark Milley went out and did a press briefing on this just 2 days ago, and he even admitted that the naval mines, he didn't say whose naval mines they were, but he said it was the naval mines that are causing the blockade.
Yeah, they're
Supplies
old
of
mines.
wheat and other foodstuffs are blocked in Ukraine's Black Sea ports by Ukraine, creating shortages and sending prices higher in nations such as Egypt, the world's biggest wheat importer. Energy supply chains face dislocations too, as Russian oil is increasingly shunned in global oil markets. Shunned? You mean they're not going to buy it to try to frickin' crush, and so the United States can sell it? Okay.
Yeah, because
Wheat prices
America
in
will
Chicago,
sanction you
the
if you
global
send Russian
benchmark,
oil.
have surged more than 50%
We've got such
this
great
year,
sanctions.
and are close
They're
to
the
record
greatest
highs at about
sanctions.
$12 a bushel. Corn has risen 32% and soybeans 26%. Benchmark Brent crude prices have climbed 46% to about $114 a barrel, while diesel and gasoline prices have rallied to a series of records, and U.S. natural gas prices have more than doubled in 2022. That's because we did this. The commodity shock has fanned inflation in the United States and Europe, pushing central banks to raise interest rates and hurting low-income consumers. So this war is hurting low-income people. Okay. For many poorer economies, higher import prices risk also feeding into financial stress by draining foreign currency reserves and boosting financial requirements from overseas. So it's hurting the poor and the weak. The most pressing concern for officials and executives is the availability of food, as Russia blockades Ukraine's Black Sea ports and fertilizer supplies from Russia and Belarus are disrupted. You want to add anything to that, Jackson, to that paragraph?
Yeah, I mean, there's other U.S. general, the nominated next NATO general commander. He came out today. I think his name's like Cabilo. And he came out today and said that they, because of the naval mines, they're working on trying to export the grain to Western Europe through railways. So they're fully admitting that it's the mines that are causing the blockade, not Russian ships.
But right
the
here,
media is buying their own garbage as per usual.
And so here's the Wall Street Journal telling you a lie, that it's Russia doing it. Mm-hmm. Right, that's a lie. Poland is pushing the United States and European Union to help rapidly expand the rail infrastructure needed to, this is what you were talking about, needed to export Ukraine's looming grain harvest, circumventing Russia's naval chokehold in the Black Sea. But that's the propaganda part. It's not because of that. Russia is the world's biggest wheat exporter. I didn't know that. And Ukraine the fifth. If the European Union is counted as a single exporter, okay. Ukraine exported 41.5 million metric tons of corn and wheat in the 2020-21 season, and more than 95% was shipped through the Black Sea, which they can't use anymore because Ukraine mined it. So now this guy, I caught this on the Twitters, Stephen Goins, he read that same article, and he, like me, he wanted to let you know the stuff they left out. And so this is very interesting. He says the Wall Street Journal blames Russia's blockade of Ukraine's Black Sea ports for fueling a food crisis in low-income countries, but conceals the contribution of the United States and its satellites to the same crisis. So he has a short thread, I'll read it to you. The Wall Street Journal says the fertilizer supplies from Russia and Belarus are disrupted, but doesn't reveal that the disruptor is the West. The reality is that Russia, in blockading the Black Sea ports and the West, in sanctioning Russian fertilizer supplies, are jointly creating the crisis.
Sanctions. They're great.
The UN Development Program's Achim Steiner says counties should block exports of commodities, which the Wall Street Journal presents in the context of Russia's blockade of Ukraine wheat exports, ignoring the West blocking Russian oil, natural gas, coal, and fertilizer supplies. So we're doing that. Energy historian Daniel Yergin notes, high energy prices are fueling inflation in food prices by boosting the cost of food fertilizer, which is made with natural gas and of transportation. Rising energy prices are due in part to Western sanctions on Russia, oil, gas, and coal. They don't tell you that. The U.S. cries crocodile tears over the burgeoning food crisis, conceals its role, and blames Russia. What's more, it does nothing to bring the crisis to an end. Instead, doing all it can to prolong the war in Ukraine to reap its many rewards. And then he says, rewards to the U.S. of the war in Ukraine, weaker Russia, European energy markets reorientated from Russia to U.S.-controlled suppliers. That's a big one. Russia gives 40% of the energy to Europe, and now U.S.-controlled suppliers want that market. Expansion of NATO, that's also a plus. Booming weapon sales for U.S. merchants of death, that's that $40 billion. Plus Europe more firmly under the U.S. thumb. Those are all the benefits of the Ukraine war for the United States. Wall Street Journal doesn't tell you any of that, and they don't tell you the real cause of all the shortages, the food shortages, or the spike in gas and oil prices. Let me bring in Jackson. Anything else you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, one interesting part in that Wall Street Journal article also mentioned that Russia's going to be hit because of all the sanctions on their energy and commodities. And they talk about the looming commodity crisis, but Russia's economy is commodity production. It's energy, coal, natural gas, these sorts of things. Russia's energy exports have increased dramatically throughout the war because they're exporting to India, South Africa, Pakistan, and China. And they're actually making a lot more money. Their energy tax revenues are expected to go up 48%.
Our sanctions are so great.
This crisis and gas prices, oil prices are shooting up. So
we've got such great
again,
sanctions.
As per usual, the media is ignoring the truth, and Biden's policies have actually
we've got the
backfired
greatest
Russia
sanctions
and hurt working people in Europe and the U.S.
100%. Okay, over stuff.
Kim Burns, thank you so much for your generosity. May Lease, pharmacists here, Xanax and alcohol both suppress the central nervous system, and too much of that slows your respiratory rate to the point you stop breathing. Same issue with fentanyl and overdose. Thank you, May Lease. I'm a Phil-American. Weekly plea to come back to San Jose Improv. Bring Jackson, bring Kirk. I'd love to hear. I'd love
We
to
will
be
be
the
back.
room server. All right.
We will be back to the San Jose Improv and the Baby and Cobb's Comedy Club too, which is in downtown San Fran. So how is it going to end? So we've told you how it's going to end in Ukraine. It's going to end however Vladimir Putin wants it to end. But how it's going to end is they're going to keep that Crimea. They're going to keep the section of the Donbass. It's going to stay under Russian control. That's what's going to happen. That's how I see it happening. And even Henry Kissinger said that Ukraine has to cede territory to Russia to end this, whether they want to or not. So how does it end? Fissures emerge over what constitutes victory in Ukraine. So let me go all the way to the end. So here's how it's going to end. So right now, in pink, this is all controlled by Russia. This is the Donbass. Right, Jackson? I got this right?
Yes.
So there's Donetsk, there's Luhansk, and so Russia has all this. And the purple is held by Ukraine. You see? All right, you see the problem? So this is all going to stay with Russia. So this is Mariupol is over here. We talked about that. That's where they defeated the Nazis, the Azov Battalion. And
it will create false pretext for invasion. And it will amass troops and firepower in plain sight. We now receive reports of what appears to be provocations. And we see Russia spreading disinformation, lies, and propaganda. Nonetheless, in a deliberate and coordinated effort, we together are one, exposing the truth, and two, speaking with a unified voice. As President Joe Biden has made clear, the United States, our NATO allies, and our partners have been and remain open to serious diplomacy. We have put concrete proposals on the table. We have encouraged and engaged Russia through NATO, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the United Nations, and bilateral dialogues. We have engaged in good faith. Russia continues to claim it is ready for talks, while at the same time, it narrows the avenues for diplomacy. Their actions simply do not match their words. And let me be clear, I can say with absolute certainty, if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States, together with our allies and partners, will impose significant an unprecedented economic cost.
On us, the American people. That's who it's costing. Oh, and Lee Camp says the United States is going to coup Mexico over lithium. So that should be interesting too.
Differences over war aims broke into the open at the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, as Henry Kissinger, of all frickin' people, the 99-year-old former Secretary of State, suggested that Ukraine would likely have to give up some territory in a negotiated settlement, though he added that ideally the dividing line should be a return to the status quo before the invasion, which included the Russian annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the seizure of parts of the Donbass, like I just told you. Henry Kissinger can see how this is going to end. He said it's going to end just like as I told you at the top of this segment. Almost immediately, President Zelensky of Ukraine accused Kissinger of appeasement, retorting angrily that I get the sense that instead of the year 2022, Kissinger has 1938 on his calendar. So those are so he's saying that because if he goes along with the negotiated settlement, the Nazis will kill him inside of Ukraine. That's why Zelensky can't go for a negotiated
peace.
Those
Russians are going to kill him.
He was referring to the year Hitler began his sweep across Europe, the event that caused Mr. Kissinger, then a teenager, to flee with his family to New York. Nobody heard from him then that it was necessary to adapt to the Nazis instead of fleeing them or fighting them. So that's what. So they're saying that hey, Kissinger fled. Differing objectives, of course, make it all the more difficult to define what victory or even a muddled peace would look like. And they foreshadow a coming debate about what position Mr. Zelensky and his Western allies would take if negotiations to end the conflict finally get going. But Mr. Zelensky has at various moments
right on,
James contradictory views on what it would take to end the war, even offering to commit his country to neutrality rather than aspiring to join NATO. If Mr. Zelensky agreed to some concessions, would the United States and its allies lift many of their crushing sanctions, including the export controls that have forced Russia to shutter some of its factories for building tanks? Or would doing that doom their hopes of crippling Russia's future capabilities? In the end, American officials say the hard choices will have to be made by Mr. Zelensky and his government, but they are acutely aware that if Mr. Putin gets his land bridge to Crimea, or sanctions are partially lifted, Mr. Biden will be accused by Republican critics and perhaps some Democrats of essentially rewarding Putin for his effort to redraw the map of Europe by force. So do you see what they're saying is if Biden does the right thing, they're going to call him an appeaser. That's what they say. NATO and European Union have been surprisingly united so far in supporting Ukraine, both with painful economic sanctions aimed at Russia and in supplying an increasing quantity of weapons to Ukraine, though no jet fighters or advanced tanks. But the unity is under strain. Hungary, which has supported 5 earlier sanction packages, has balked at an embargo on Russian oil. There's a fissure. And the Europeans are not even trying, at least for now, to cut off their imports of Russian gas. Fissure. France, Italy, and Germany, the biggest and richest countries of the bloc, are anxious about a long war, or one that ends frozen in a stalemate, and nervous of the possible damage to their own economies. Those countries also think of Russia as an inescapable neighbor that cannot be isolated forever. Fissure. Zelensky has said repeatedly that he wants the Russians pushed back to where they were on February 23rd before the large-scale invasion started. Only then, he has said, would Ukraine be prepared to negotiate seriously again with Russia about the sea. Now, he's saying that because the Nazis will kill him if he doesn't. He said again this week that the war will have to end with a diplomatic solution, not a sweeping military victory. But even those aims are considered by some European officials and military experts to be ambitious. To get there, Ukraine would have to take back Kherson, and the rabid city of Mariupol. It would have to push Russia out of its land bridge to Crimea and stop Russia from annexing large parts of Donetsk and Luhansk. Many experts fear that is beyond Ukraine's capability. So that's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to do any of that. And so when Zelensky says, I'm not going to negotiate until we get, he's bullshitting. They're going to have to negotiate or be crushed. Again.
I think people, like when I hear people, I mean, a ton of people say, right? So Russia's losing, they're really screwed up. Is the idea that they're losing because what Putin really wanted was to take all of Ukraine and you get all of it? Is that what they're basing it on? I'm saying
No, the random people you're referring to that you talk to and see online and what have you are just repeating propaganda told to them by the corporate media. They're being told that Russia's losing. They're being told that Ukraine's winning.
So you guys can see off to the left
That's
now.
it. Just like they're like, like remember when we invaded Iraq and
right
there
out
was
that
that guy, Baghdad Bob?
Little side view mirror.
Say,
In
we're doing
case the
great.
deer
We're
walk
winning.
in from over there, you'll see them.
And that's what
You're looking at the
that's what
orchard.
we're doing. It's called propaganda.
You ever watch Johnny Harris, the ex-woman?
Yes.
I like it when Johnny Harris slowly discovers things, but he did one on Ukraine. I was like, he was like, Russia says because NATO expanded it. No. Like, it sounds like exactly why it happened, because they didn't want NATO.
I don't know who Johnny Harris is.
Oh, you gotta treat yourself.
Oh, is he some random guy on somewhere, or is he?
Imagine if Jackson Hinkle was a really innocent ex-Mormon of a young, with blonde hair.
So you're talking about some preacher who's prominent?
New York Times video essayist.
Oh, that's who this guy is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That's how it's going to end. There's fissures happening. The people in Europe don't agree with the people in the United States. And what do you think about all that, Jackson? Let me get your wrap up.
I think you're spot on, and more people in the Western press are beginning to admit what's going on because they understand that if the war continues and Russia continues making advances, and just today they secured the town of Liman, which is basically evidence that they're about to fully encircle 16,000 Ukrainian troops in the Donbass. The European economy is going to continue to be hit. Ukraine's going to lose more and more land. NATO is going to become more divided, as is the EU, and weaker. And these things aren't good for the stability and strength of the West, especially when they're gunning up with a war against China. So there's some rational voices, like, oddly enough, Henry Kissinger, that see the writing on the wall and are trying to stop things from getting worse. Unfortunately, I think their voices are few and far between.
Jackson, can I ask you a question? Because I just had a friend, my friend who lives in Romania sent me this, and he's like, well, it's good, now China sees they can't just go into Taiwan, which that's not what I was thinking from this. It looked to me like China's like, we'll go in as soon as the time is right, and we're going to have your own data to figure out when that is. But what, I mean, is that like who's putting that out there that this is scaring China so much?
Probably all the think tanks. I mean, all the think tanks in DC right now are not focused on Russia. Everyone in the Beltway is focused on China because they've already seen that the bomb has already exploded in Russia and they see how it's unfolding, and they're all focused on China. But as Trump's former Pentagon senior advisor, Colonel Douglas Macgregor, said, so long as Russia and China share a border and there's not a new Sino-Soviet split, they're going to hold each other up as far as like their commodity and trade exports. I mean, trade between Russia and China has increased 75% since this quarter last year. And they're not going to let each other fall, because if one of them does, then the other one will be soon to fall next. So if anything, I think China's happy seeing how this is all unfolding and how many countries are coming in saying that they're not going to condemn Russia.
Did China at any point condemn Putin anyway that I'm not aware? Because somebody said to me, I'm like, I don't remember.
No.
Yeah.
And the BRICS nations, it's Brazil, South Africa, India, all those nations came together and said that they're not going to condemn Russia either.
So the exact opposite is happening. The ruble is stronger than ever. The dollar is the one that's going to take it on the chin. We're getting inflation back here at home, food shortages, gas prices through the roof, and now the European NATO alliance is starting to have fissures. So the exact opposite is happening. I don't know who you think is running the country, but it's not Joe Biden, and we know that because he's demented. We also know it's not Kamala Harris because she talks like she's demented. And so it's somebody from the CIA. Who's running the country? Who's doing this? Who knows? Over to you, sir.
I'm just grateful for having a clean conscience. With young people, right?
That's right. Overstuff.
Some people want to know, is it third term President Obama running the country? All right, this says, we need a total and complete shutdown of the Constitution until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. Suspend the second now. That's from Jay. Look at you, Jay. All right. Oh, stand by. Now, Mr. Dorr.
So here's a very interesting thing that shows you how censorship works around the Ukraine war. So if there's one thing that's for sure, Google and YouTube, they're in bed with the national security state, right? I mean, Google has they have contracts with the CIA and what have you. Okay, and they do their bidding. And so here's Matt Taibbi. He tweeted this out. Wow, YouTube removing Victoria Nuland. What's with the four names? With Victoria Nuland call.
I know, right? Four-name girl.
Oh, that's
What's
the
with
other,
the four-name
she's
girl?
talking to the other guy. I thought that was like her.
Yeah, hyphenated, right?
It's the Victoria Nuland Jeffrey Pyatt call. I thought it was her. I thought she was using a hyphenated name.
Oh, it's two different people. Oh, I thought it was too.
Wow, YouTube removing Victoria Nuland Jeffrey Pyatt call showing U.S. involvement in the Maidan coup. The Yats is our guy tape. This is how the alleged fight against misinformation will be used to cover up damaging truth. This is from Consortium News. So there's this video. So we told you about this. So when the United States helped overthrow the government in Ukraine in 2014, Victoria Nuland was at the head of the State Department, and she was caught on a phone call. Did WikiLeaks get it? Somebody released this phone call that got recorded. And it was her planning on who should be running Ukraine. But after the United States helped overthrow the government, she's choosing their leaders. And this video, YouTube took down. It was the most popular video. Well, here, I'll show you what it was. I'll show you part of it. Here's part of it.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
So there's much more to this, but they are talking about who they're choosing. The United States State Department is choosing to run Ukraine after we do a coup. And so the coup in 2014 is the starting point that led all these events culminating in Russia's invasion of. So that was the start of this war in Ukraine. That was it. So the coup, that is the starting point for everything that's happening now. And that phone call reveals that the United States had a big hand in that coup in 2014. Removing this video would be consistent with the suppression of any information that falls outside the enforced narrative of events in Ukraine, including whitewashing any mention of the U.S.-backed coup. They never mention it, do they? They never mention it in any of the coverage. Do they mention that? Do you see it mentioned, Kurt or Jackson, that the U.S. did the coup in 2014 in Ukraine?
I heard it was just a democratic, spontaneous.
No, is that a no?
Yeah, no, I don't have any idea what.
Okay, Kurt, have you heard anybody?
Nina Yankovic said that it was a popular revolution.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to make a joke about. But somebody told me that Victoria Nuland tape, and I didn't understand when they were saying it to me. It was just them talking to the Ukrainian leader that was being ousted, trying to help him out.
Ha!
And that was the wrong. And I was like, well, the tape I heard, she's talking to this guy, what's his name?
Jeffrey Pyatt?
Yeah, and so I know there's some kind of narrative that way. They're like, no, they were just like really trying to help him.
Yeah, that's the.
And I'm like, why are they saying idiot? They shouldn't. Why are they doing idiot?
It was one of the most watched versions of the intercepted and leaked conversations between the then Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt, the then U.S. Ambassador of Ukraine. So she wasn't talking to somebody inside the Ukraine government. She was talking to the United States Ambassador to Ukraine. So it was two people from the United States, in which the two discussed who will make up the new government weeks before democratically elected Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych was overthrown in a violent coup in February of 2014. The two talk about midwifing the unconstitutional change of government and gluing it together, and of the role then Vice President Joe Biden should play, and what meetings to set up with Ukrainian politics. So they're mapping out the whole thing in this phone call of how they're going to do the coup. The U.S. State Department never denied the authenticity of the video, and even issued an apology to the European Union after Nuland is heard on the tape saying, "Fuck the EU." Mainstream media at the time focused almost exclusively on that off-color remark, ignoring the greater significance of the United States interference in Ukraine's internal affairs. The video was posted on April 29, 2014, and had 181,533 views before it was taken down. And it was among the most viewed versions of that conversation on YouTube. 8 years worth of comments on the video have also been removed. The removal of the video that had existed online for 8 years raises major questions as it comes during the war in Ukraine. Corporate media has studiously avoided mentioning the causes of the current conflict, that's true, including NATO's eastward expansion, the rejected Moscow Treaty proposals in December, the civil war in Donbass, and the 2014 coup in Kiev that led to the Donbass uprising and violent repression by the coup government. So that's true. They never mention any of this shit in the United States media, which is why the United States people don't know what's actually happening there. They don't censor lies. So when Matt Taibbi tweeted that out, I said they don't censor lies. It's the truth that scares them. Remember, Assange is in prison for telling the truth. So YouTube is going to take down the truth. They're not going to take down lies. Lies are okay. As long as they're a lie that props
that was
up
low-hanging
the
fruit.
Then it's okay.
Where he says they don't censor lies, and I go, Jimmy, that's why your show doesn't get censored.
Someone telling the truth, you know, like,
Yes. If it's a lie that helps
No, I
the
didn't say it.
establishment, they'll let it go.
That's what I was going to say. It was,
That's
I heard
the
Rogue
part about that
flipping his
video
ears and he
is not
cleaned his
just that
ears.
they're admitting to the coup and not just that they're saying fuck the EU, but when you
What's up, buddy?
have people like Tanya Book on the
Where you
outside
at?
helping Yatsen.
I'm going to go, guys. Love y'all. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Hope you guys had
Individual
fun.
that you and Max Blumenthal were discussing,
Bye, everybody.
who said that he wanted to purge Ukraine of the Jews and Russians and believes Ukraine should only be for Ukrainians.
Ha!
The fifth most anti-Semitic political leader on the planet, seems ranked.
Did you say Tanya book?
Yes. I don't know how to pronounce it. Tanya Book. She pronounced it differently, but.
Bye, guys.
Book is the other one?
Tanya Book is the political person they wanted to have on the outside.